I am really honored to share this story with you, my own story of transformation. I have written the poetic memoir, The Blooming of the Lotus, a spiritual journey from trauma into light, about the process of my own healing through the brutal trauma of my childhood. A story of hope and victory. This is a resource for incest and trauma survivors and for the professionals who impact their lives. I wrote this book in collaboration with trauma specialist Dr. AnDreya Wilde, who organized the poems into chapters that follow the natural order of healing. Whether you read these poems sequentially or choose a chapter that most resonates with where you are in the moment, you will know that you are not alone. The writing of this book was tremendously transformative for me. I wrote it over a period of 5 years as the worst of the memories surfaced following the death of my second parent. In the actual writing of so many of these poems, I wrote my way from a very hard place out to the other side. But what I did not expect was that as I faced audiences in these readings, I would be receiving myself a gift. I had always known that in my book and as I addressed people, I wanted to offer hope and release and validation, comfort, strength, courage, and empowerment. What I did not envision is that slowly, over time, I would receive a gift of the building of my inner power as I took this risk to tell. As a child, my father said to me, "If you tell, I will kill you." Both my parents said to me, "You are to blame. You are bad." But to stand before all of you here and previous audiences, and little by little to learn that I will not be killed, and more, that I am doing good as I help others and as I encourage others to tell. This is bringing deep, deep healing to me. I have read in the latest Alumni Quarterly the interview about Ali Safran's Surviving in Numbers work on sexual abuse and domestic violence. I have also read the recent New York Times article about the fight against sexual assault on college campuses. I, at Mount Holyoke, was abused sexually by a professor and by a student at Yale. It is estimated that there are 60 million survivors of sexual abuse in this country alone, mostly women. 60% of incidents are never reported. If all of them were, the numbers would be closer to 150 million. Hi. For children, 90% of sexual abuse is committed by those loved, known, or trusted by the victim. Many of us experience sexual abuse way before college. For many of us, that experience provides the basis for later abuse in our lives. When we are ready to tell someone, that signifies that we are also ready to begin the work of healing. The more survivors tell, the more other survivors will be encouraged to tell about this living death. And the more professionals are informed, therapists, healers, educators, and those who make laws, the more change and healing will occur in those arenas, and the more our very world will be transformed. I will not be reading any poems with details of the abuse here today. I will just mention a few facts. My father incested me from infancy until 17, when I was finally able to say no. My father at times would bring in as many as 5 additional men. I experienced heinous torture, and my mother either watched or walked away and blamed me. I will begin by reading just a few poems from the first part of the book about what happened, just to give a sense of the repercussions of this kind of abuse for a child, and also to show how many of us at an early age are taught that we simply do not deserve. But I do not want this reading to be primarily about the pain or the abuse. I want it to be more about the possibility of healing from the pain, the possibility of transformation. I will start with the first poem in the book. My heart moves to the sound of tears not fallen, waiting for the emptiness to find its river out. The hollow drum of my insides echoes with the warning of a hurt so deep I am lost. Effigies of horror burned. I tear at my skin so the blood runs, so I may feel this pain and let the weeping begin. At least then I will know myself alive. Part 1 from the chapter Childhood. Worthless, where it all begins. 3 years old, Daddy comes to me and says, "Be a good girl. Do as I say. Then, be a good girl. Smile while I do it." I don't understand again. I don't know how to smile when I don't feel like smiling. So he holds me down fiercely and slaps me and tells me I am bad. But I can't cry because he'll tell me that I'm really bad. The bad sinks in to weigh down deep. It sits in there and makes me feel like I'm full of worms. I feel dirty and know I can't do good or ever be good. I am 3 years old and worth nothing. From the chapter, The Abyss. There is reference here to Dachau, which was a concentration camp during the Holocaust. The daughter that I was. With all that is going on with my own daughter, I am brought back to when I was the daughter of a man who only hurt me and a mother who refused to care. And the scenes come in flashes of hands and eyes and bodies and screams. So many bodies rolling around, torturing and tortured. I remember going to Dachau in my late teens and seeing photographs of people treated like pieces of trash, tossed on the refuse pile, burned as if there were no life, as if we were put here without conscience, and now as if all of them were me. From the chapter, Mother. In the Chronicles of Narnia by C.S. Lewis, the White Witch signifies evil. The White Witch in childhood. I feel ice in my veins, as if the White Witch of Narnia had cast a spell on me. Of lies and hatred and crimes I was accused of that I did not commit. I am torn down, my limbs having no bones to hold me up. And I feel the fluid in my veins that she put there. A potion that in moments will turn me to stone. This was my childhood. To be forced to live as if I were of stone. To never be allowed to feel or breathe or know love or kindness. The spell to continue until I could find the antidote. Until I, only I, could discover how to bring love and kindness into my life, along with forgiveness and compassion for myself. Until then, I would remain frozen by her evil, dead as I live. From the chapter, Rage. Explosion. The lid is locked. Pressed down so hard all my life, what has built up inside is past, ready to explode. Leaking out at the edges, it takes all of me to keep it under control, because I have to as I finish what I have promised. But soon, I will let the gasket blow, and the power crushed within me, raging all this time, growing and growing, becoming stronger and stronger, more and more volatile, more and more beautiful, in crystalline focus, will shatter its bonds, and birth itself to fill the world with images and words so long trapped inside. Part 2. This part follows the progress of the major portion of my healing. I invite you all to be witness to this process and to the healing tools that I used to help me. The very first of these is telling. First, telling of a therapist, and in the process of this, getting help to allow your body to tell you what happened. And then, when we are ready to risk coming out of isolation, to tell one more person to begin with. The writing, as I spoke about, was incredibly transformative for me. And also, making art, I've been an artist all my life, but this part of art is not about drawing pictures or painting pictures. It's about being able to just get out of your body with marks on paper, just express what you feel. Also, nature was an incredibly powerful healer for me. Nature does not judge. Nature has no expectations of you. And if we are able to look and listen very carefully, we can hear and see messages of guidance and healing everywhere around us. Belief system. Over the course of my healing, I very much strengthened my belief system so that when I was in a very hard place, I could immediately know who or what to reach out to for help. And also the last one, there's others too, but self-nurturing. When we are raised by those who cannot or will not care for us, it is of utmost importance that we learn how to nurture ourselves. This poem is from the chapter called Rescue. White Doves. Last night, the wind was raging, howling in the darkness and within me. But I ventured out to the studio and made a drawing, pricking my finger and painting with blood the words I did not have. I returned to my desk and began to offer other words, waiting and waiting to come. Now, in the dawn of this day, the wind finally asleep, I am enfolded by the gift of doves sent down to me by angels. They shimmer all around me, wrapping me in gold, saving me with light. The grief is still here, ready to seize me. But I will take this window of time, this quiet, to strengthen my claim upon this earth, although at times I want nothing more than to float away, surrounded by doves. From the chapter Reaching for the Light. I'll keep going. So much responsibility, so much pressure, like the weight of my father, the blame of my mother. I want out. Out from under. Out of this life. Out on the prairie. Out in the desert. Out in the open sky and dry yellow earth of New Mexico. Starved. Branded. Wandering. Left to my muddled senses. Left to be lost and never be found. Wild in the desert, my hair long and stringy, held back by a glittering set of combs, or nothing but braided grasses. My clothes in shambles, my brain in shambles, not wanting to answer to anyone. Leave me alone, keep me drugged, give me a frontal lobotomy so I cannot feel. Curl up into a ball and never uncurl. Just lay comatose, gone. But the trees, they whisper. The beech leaves in winter. Please, I say. Soft morning sun on your eyelids. The feel of grass under your hand. Don't. The wind on your face as you stand on the porch or on the rocks at the ocean. I can't. Please stop. Your studio. I know they are trying to save me, despite the anguish, despite my desire to have no desires, to be dead to desire, and to my heart, and to everyone who needs me. I want to be taken care of, and I know I can't be, so I just want out. But I won't, because of my daughter and my son. And all right, yes, because I could not bear to no longer feel the wind on my face, see the faint rose on the clouds at sunset, and there is none of this soft green grass in the desert. From the chapter Courage, the shell. Hesitant, I stand at the opening of the cave that is the shell I have carried with me all my life. I have stood at this threshold for 30 years, watching, listening, doing, but not yet able to really step out, pry myself away from what kept me safe as a child. In my late 20s, I crawled to the edge of this shell. I peered around and thought it time to take a chance. I taught myself how to talk at parties instead of lying on the floor between a bed and a wall, buried in coats where they were thrown. But still, I realize I have kept my shell to hide behind. Now, I am ready, maybe, to step forward, away from its cover, an inch at a time, to open to at least one besides the one who has heard everything. To bear my insides and this utter grief holding me immobile, and even allow my body seen with extra pounds. To share that I hurt, that I can't anymore keep it all inside for fear of the knife or the hands on my throat or other parts at other places. Instead, to hope simply for love. Also from the chapter Courage, before me. Wavering on the threshold of a brand new life. Behind me, lifetimes of being bent over, waiting to be hurt, destroyed. I stand here, looking out at sun over mountains and green valleys I have walked so far to find. The air, smoothing my face, is filled with the scent of plum blossoms. But between me and the solid earth I see is a chasm that I do not know how to cross. I want to step forward, releasing all that is behind me. I can feel that when I do, I will hear the solid click of a bolt, locking the door forever to what has been. It is difficult for my hand to release its grasp on the threshold. Difficult to leave behind what I have always known. But somewhere in me, part of me also knows that once I do, however afraid I am, somehow, as I take my first step, I will be lifted as on a cloud and magically brought across to exactly where I am supposed to be. And there I will find many plums to pick and eat, many to help me, and so much joy and sustenance in where I am. I will no longer need to walk back through that door ever again. Part 3. This part is the continuation of my healing as I continue to gather healing tools to use. This poem is from the chapter Giving to Myself, 3 years old. I see you, small one, crumpled in upon yourself. Everything inside jagged and hurt. Do you not know you are only beautiful and too precious, too small too innocent to be bad. You are only good. And I am here to hold you and love you and tell you over and over that you are good. You are good. From the chapter Into the Lotus, Who I Can Be. As I learn once again to find the way that is right for me, to stand and walk on this earth, I let fall away how I was forced to stand and walk as a child. My body was not my own, like a river torn from its natural bed, to bend and twist according to the rules of men. Now, like the river, when at last given permission to follow again its own authentic course, I too am learning how to make my body my own. What I am doing these days is moving me along this path. I do something. I acknowledge what I do and that I do it well. I breathe this in and then I rest, even for a few moments. I speak to myself the words a mother and father would have spoken, but not mine. As I do this ritual every time, I am inviting myself to be and recognize who I am. I am allowing the fullness of myself to fill the space that I inhabit. I am feeling safe enough to let happen the growing and then forming of who I came here to be. The chains have fallen away. There is no one forcing anymore. There is only my own voice claiming that this is what I need, and then discovering in those moments of breath and appreciation and rest the wholeness and possibility of who it is my right to be. And from the chapter The Lotus, Path of the Moon. At high tide, I sat on the rocks, the water near to where I was. I waited to be splashed. The full orange moon shining down lighting a path between us, inching closer and closer, staying to stone, not slippery. I nearly felt the water. And as I waited, what I found was my own power reaching me, touching me, telling me, I am here. When at last the big splash came, I laughed aloud with joy. Such a gift to be here in this life at this time with who I have become. Thank you.